Alright, so we've gone through, we've learned how to animate, now we're ready to come back into our demo project and start animating different things about our demo project. So a couple things that we're going to do in this video is we're going to be working with and going back to that Cooking 101 site, and then we're going to animate various sections in that site. After we're done with that, we'll come back in here and wrap up a summary for this section. So I have my project on my desktop here, this 01 starter project file. Now we really haven't done anything with this starter project yet, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the index.html file. It already has the Animate CSS attached. I'm going to go ahead and preview this in a browser just so I can see what this looks like. So coming back into my folder, I'm just going to go ahead and double click on animate.css. Nothing is animated yet. If I scroll down, it's absolutely just kind of static there. So let's go ahead and switch back to the code and start adding on some CSS animations. Alright, so I'm going to come in here, and the first thing I want to do is I want to take this color overlay and I want to add a fade in. Color overlay is basically the black over the image. Let's go back into the browser, and you'll notice that the image itself is kind of darker here, so I want to fade that in to begin with. I'm going to come back into the overlay, and I'm going to add on my animated class first of all. So animated, this essentially is telling Animate CSS that this object is going to be animated. And then I'm going to add on the animation of fade in. Now make sure that the in is capitalized, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. You can do that with Control S or Command S, or coming up to File, you can go to File, Save as well. So let's go back into the browser and take a look at this. So now I'm going to come in here and hit refresh, and you'll notice I get a fade of this background. That fade may go really quickly. I'm going to show you in future videos how to slow that down and have that take a little bit longer. But for now, you can at least tell that's kind of fading in. So the next thing I want to do is animate in this title right here. Now I want to animate in both the top title and I want to animate in this subtitle as well. The way that I do that is by applying the animation to both of them, by applying it to a div tag that covers both of them. So let's go back into the code. And I'm going to come into this section right here. This div tag covers both of them, so we have the heading 1 tag and the paragraph tag right there. And I'm going to make sure that I have right after the hero text the animated class, and so I'm going to say animated, and then I can do a fade in as well, but I want it to also move in, so I'm going to do a fade in left. If you don't know exactly which one you want to do, go back into Animate CSS's website and explore the different options that you have available. Now I'm going to save this, and let's go back into the browser, and you can see here in the browser, if I hit refresh, not only does the overlay fade in, but the text itself also fades in, but it also comes in from the left. If I want to change that to a different direction, I can, but I at least have some animation, some life to my project. The next thing I want to do is I want to animate in these different sections here. Now I'm eventually going to sequence these animations, so I'm going to have the first one come in, the second one, the third one, and then the fourth one. For consistency purposes, I want to make sure that all of those have the same animation. So let's go back into the code, and let's go to that section. I'm going to go to the first section here, and right after the col-md-3, I'm going to add the animated class, and then I'm going to go ahead and add on the zoom in class. I want this to zoom in so it looks like it's really small and then gets to be the exact size that I want it to be. I'm going to preview this before I apply it to the other columns, so I'm going to switch back into my browser here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh. So you can see it's a nice zoom. It happens pretty quickly, and then it starts to slow down towards the end. I like that a lot, so I'm going to go back into the code and apply those same classes to all 4 columns here. So I'm going to take this, copy this animated, and zoom in, and then go ahead and add a space. If for some reason you don't add a space, you may run into some issues where the animation may not be happening correctly. So I'm going to add a space to all 4 of those columns. So right there, I did not add a space. You'll have to come back in here and add a space, or else you'll see some issues when you try to preview it. All right, so I'm going to go back in and switch and see if this has applied. Hit preview, and you can see that all 4 columns are animating in. They're all zooming in. All right, so coming back into the code, we're going to do a couple things here. First of all, I'm going to take this section right here, this mobile ready recipes, or let's come down here. Yeah, let's go back up to here. This mobile readies section, I'm going to go ahead and add a class. You can see this one already has a lot of classes, and that's more to handle the padding and the margin at different screen sizes. So when it becomes responsive, it actually adds on additional padding or switches the padding to certain sizes at different screen sizes there. But I'm going to go ahead and add an animated, and there's really not a limit to the amount of classes that you can have on an object. So I'm going to say animated, and then I'm going to add on the animation of flip, in, and then Y. Switching back into the browser, I go ahead and hit refresh, scroll down a little bit more, hit refresh again, and you can see that text kind of flips in and animates in as well. So let's go back into the code. Let's do the same thing with the image, but instead of the flip, I'm going to go ahead and say animated first of all, and then I'm going to say bounce in right. So saving that, I'm going to go back into the browser and then hit refresh, and you'll notice that the iPhone animates in, kind of bounces in from the right. Now, one word of caution, and this does bug me tremendously, if you have an object that's on the right-hand side of the stage, and then you add an animation to animate in from the left hand of the stage, you're starting to cross objects, you're starting to cross the image over the text, and to me that just looks bad, is you're crossing those objects, and it's just like it shouldn't touch for some reason unless it was some game where it can bounce off of each other. Just avoid that. If that's the look you're going for, great, but if you can, just avoid that. So I'm going to come back into the code here, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Instead of bounce in right, I'm going to say bounce in left. Coming back into the browser, hit refresh, and you'll notice the iPhone comes in from the left and goes all the way over the text and goes into the right position at that point. That's what I'm saying, is try to avoid that. If the object is closer to the right-hand side of the stage, then do a bounce in right instead of a bounce in left. All right, so what I want you to do is in the next section, I want you to add on your own animation on the text here, and then also, this is the laptop, so add on an animation to the laptop, and then add on an animation to the text. And so I'm going to let you choose what those animations are. But so far, we've been able to apply these animations to our sample project. This section has really allowed us to do a couple things. It allowed us to download Animate CSS. It allowed us to attach Animate CSS to any project. It allowed us to explore various animations as well. So we're able to see the types of animations that come default with Animate CSS. And we were able to get in and start animating our first object, as well as loop our animations over and over if needed. And then we were able to go in and animate various parts of our cooking project. So we've done a lot, and honestly, if that's all you need to do in Animate CSS, then great. You don't need to continue in this course. You can just do the basics there. But there's a lot more that we can cover. Being able to set the duration, being able to set a delay, being able to trigger an animation or sequence animations as well, being able to call something after an animation ends. So there's still a lot we can cover in this course, but if you only need a simple fade in, you only need something to move over from the left to the right, then this is pretty much all that you need to know. You can get started, and that's the idea of Animate CSS. It's really that easy to get started, but then if you want to extend it, then you can extend it, and that's what we're going to cover in these next couple sections.